Well, welcome to We Don't Color on the Dog. We got with us Sheriff Chip Simmons. Chip, thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon, Rick. How are you?
Doing well. Yeah, we met last week. We talked about the open carry ban being lifted by the appellate court here. And at the time, we were thinking that all 15 locations where guns are prohibited under the concealed carry permits, that those still apply. Now that's come into question. What are you hearing on your end?
Well, and that's what I'm hearing. There's some question. Just to give a brief understanding of it, there was an open carry prohibition, and then there was a statute regarding concealed carry. The concealed carry is what had those 15 exceptions. You could not conceal carry in these locations: courthouses, sheriff's offices, and meetings of the governing body, all those things. The open carry prohibition was pretty general. You couldn't carry openly. So when the open carry went away, now we're stuck with pointing to the concealed carry exemptions. But there are some questions as to whether they even apply, because it deals A, with the concealed carry, and then B, it also talks about a licensed individual. Well, none of those apply to open carry. So now all the jurisdictions, including the sheriffs, are all said, okay, which ones apply? Does the exemptions that are in the concealed carry law can you adopt those? Well, I'm not so sure if you can. So what we're looking at now, whether the intent from the Attorney General's office pointed to the 12A exemptions or if they did not. Now, I will tell you, just to be clear here, outside of the 12A exemptions, you can't carry a gun in a school, openly or concealed. Can't carry one in a courthouse because it's what I call a quasi-correctional institute. You can't. They have the prisoners that are in the cells and that sort of thing. And you can't carry in the airport, or you can't carry where there's a federal regulation against it. So those still apply, whether we choose to adopt these 15, these 12A exemptions or not. So the option now is to whether we will allow open carry in a polling place, whether we allow an open carry in not just a government building, but also a meeting of the governing body. Right now, I'm tending towards siding with a constitutional right. We have a constitutional right to bear arms in the United States. We mirror that with the state of Florida. And so we're tempted now, as we continue our contemplation, to side with a constitutional right, saying that you can open carry in all these locations except for the schools, except for the courthouses, except for the airports, and again, except for those places that are federally prohibited. Doesn't mean you can brandish it, doesn't mean you can wave it around, doesn't mean you can be intimidating with it. It doesn't mean that a private business owner or homeowner can't have their own rules. But that's where we're aimed at right now. With regards to Escambia County.
Yeah, it seems to be, in looking at news stories, Sheriff, it seems to be some inconsistency around the state with how different state attorneys and different sheriffs are handling it.
No, I think that's correct. I think, again, as I mentioned before, when you do away with one statute and people are looking at some direction, and all they have is a statute that, in my opinion, doesn't necessarily fit. It is clearly a concealed carry statute, so they kind of left us in a little bit of limbo. And as I mentioned before, I don't know that I have an option except to fall back on what is a constitutional right. And unless there is a statute that would prohibit it, and at this point, in fact, I just finished a meeting with my general counsel, and she has been, Deborah Little, she's been talking to a number of her cohorts throughout the state of Florida. And there's what you mentioned. There's some inconsistencies. There's some sheriffs, and I understand that. I've talked to a number of sheriffs. There are some sheriffs that think that are applying the 12A exemptions, as maybe more or less of a that's the only thing available to us to show at least a version of legislative intent. I'm not so sure if I see that.
Well, or is it even necessary to have a concealed permit anymore?
I guess it depends on what you want to do. If you want a reciprocity with other states on their laws, then perhaps you want to. If you don't want to wait, have a 3-day wait. Then you could get a concealed permit as well. I happen to think that the legislature has got to do some cleaning up of the verbiage. If we have open carry now, where do we have open carry? Where can we not have open carry? And then if we have open carry, how are we going to do the concealed carry? Is it necessary to have one? Maybe there's only a few needs with the concealed carry. But there's to me, the concealed carry I think is even dated because it talks about having a license to conceal carry. Well, as you know, we don't even have to have a license to conceal anymore. We had what was called constitutional carry. So the statute that we're pointing to now, or that others are contemplating, I think that's dated. I think that because we had constitutional carry, I think that statute wasn't as necessary as it was previous to constitutional carry. But there's a
Do you
lot
think
here,
the
and I
Florida?
acknowledge that.
No, I was just thinking, the legislature is going to be looking to the sheriffs and the Florida Sheriffs Association. Y'all are going to have to weigh in on it. Do you think y'all will have a unified approach on this?
I think that there are sheriffs that are taking an approach that those 12A exemptions or concealed carry exemptions don't apply. There are sheriffs that take that approach, and if you take that approach, and I'm inclined to take that approach myself, then we think that there should be some common sense exemptions. The polling places and the meetings of the governing body. I think there should police stations and FHP stations. I think that there are some needs, some things need to be addressed. Those that believe that the 12A exemptions apply, my assumption, again, not speaking for them, but my assumption is they believe that you should just incorporate those into an open carry situation. So I think that there's a need. I think there's going to be a consistent desire on behalf of not just the sheriff's offices, but there's some municipalities that obviously would want some direction on this. And I think that there are some governing bodies that would probably need a little bit more direction, a little more fine tuning with regards to statute, because we live in a different world now. This open carry, doing away with open carry, the prohibition against it has put us in a completely different world. It's one thing to say we're an open carry state. It's another thing to say we're an open carry state regardless. So I think there needs to be some legislative addressing of exactly where the intent is to open carry.
The other topic that came up over the weekend is what to do. These are mainly thinking about handguns. When we think about open carry, there also others are bringing up about long guns. The long guns is can you walk around with a long gun?
Well, and that's the same thing that I'm dealing with. The 12A exemptions, again, dealt with concealed carry, which means they dealt with concealed carry of handguns.
Right, right.
Handguns, as you know, words matter. So if you use handguns, it's not a rifle. It's not a long gun, not a shotgun, not an AR. So there are some, and we started this conversation right after the court ruling. It says you can't carry handguns, but can you carry long guns into a meeting of a governmental body? Well, that makes no sense to me. If you can't carry an open carry a handgun in a holster, why am I going to let someone carry a long gun that may be strapped around your back? So again, what I mentioned twice now, and I'll mention the third time, I'm sworn to uphold the Constitution. And if at this point we are not going to restrict an individual from open carrying a handgun or a long gun into a government building or even to the lobby here at the sheriff's office. Again, a right is a right, and the right to bear arms applies throughout with just some enumerated exceptions. And I think that's where we're at.
The other, I guess, and I'm going to go just a little bit further because it's me, but we still also, it's your open carry is allowed, but it's still illegal to carry a gun in a threatening way, to handle it in a threatening way, or to wave it around or carelessly or in anger. That's still illegal whether you have, open carry doesn't exempt you from the handling of the gun.
Well, exactly. There's a reckless display. You cannot brandish the firearm. I think that's what people really need to pay attention to. If you're the individual that's inclined to carry a weapon into a government facility, let's say, it's one thing to carry that thing holstered or even strapped around your back. It's another thing to unholster that weapon. So I believe that if you decide your desire is to unholster a weapon, it's an uphill battle with regards to what we consider brandishment or reckless display. Now, obviously, if your life is in danger, if you feel threatened, if a reasonable person would feel threatened in that situation, I think that's certainly something that a law enforcement officer we would evaluate. But it's one thing to carry a weapon or a firearm or a long gun. It's a completely other thing to pull that out and start waving it around or threaten someone with it. Those are still illegal. We will certainly charge an individual with that, and I can't tell you how dangerous that would be at a meeting place where we have armed deputies there. If you reach out and you unholster your weapon, that's a terribly dangerous thing to do, and it is a crime, and we will enforce that state statute.
All right. Chip, Thank you for doing this today. We'll have more to talk about next week, but thank you.
You bet. Y'all take care.
Thanks for watching, and to keep up with what's going on, be sure and subscribe. Just click on the little dog to the right and click the subscribe button. You can also like this video and click on the bell, which will notify you of new content. This really helps the channel grow. We appreciate you.